Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and today I'm taking part in a Draw This in Your Style challenge. So back on May 5th, Mando Teresia, who has a very nice art channel, gave those of us in the art community a challenge to draw our own version of a space mermaid she had created to celebrate her anniversary and also her reaching 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and I believe 5,000 followers on Instagram. I don't know if I've seen space mermaids before. I feel like there's some sort of a vague recollection of the idea somewhere in my brain, but I don't know where it came from. And this particular space mermaid is very interesting in that she's got a tail that is a long sort of whip-like end as opposed to the usual two fins or split fins like a fish has, and also she's got the whole parts of her body missing thing that is a style that people do, and I don't understand it, but it's a thing that people do and it looks kind of cool. So I was thinking about how I could make my rendition of this mermaid interesting and what sort of images I like in space. I watch a lot of Star Trek, so I see lots of interesting CGI and such, and I really enjoy a lot of it. They do some really pretty stuff. And one of the things I've enjoyed most on Star Trek have been nebulas, but I also really enjoy gas giant. They, I think, are some of the prettiest things. They're very cool and they're very pretty, and I love the way that they're lines of color that go across, and actually the way that the gases meld with each other really lends itself to watercolors. So I thought that since that's my medium, it would be a good thing to try depicting along with the space mermaid. And I also wanted to put her in an interesting position because one of the things that I enjoy most stretching myself in is figuring out new and different poses to put my people in, sitting different ways or leaning different ways. And so I don't think I have painted anyone sort of reclining before, so I decided that a cool way to depict the space mermaid would be to have her having a little break, leaning up against one gas giant and having her tail draped over another one. And so obviously there's no specific size particularly indicated on Mando's painting, although one would automatically assume that it's like a human-sized mermaid. But in this case, my mermaid is a really huge space mermaid, and so she uses planets as her furniture. And I thought it kind of also just added to the whole aspect of non-realism fantasy. What's it called when things don't fit together realistically? Anyway, sometimes I really like paintings that do that, so I thought it'd be fun to try it out. One thing that I struggled with a fair amount on this painting was getting the mermaid's skin tone right, because as I was first looking at Mando's painting, it seemed like the skin was green, but then I was looking again and I was like, no, that's gray, but it's also kind of a bluey gray, but there's definitely some undertones of green in there. So I ended up going for just swirling around green and blue and gray watercolors on the page, and I think that turned out fairly nice because I mixed them on the page instead of on a palette. I got a lot of variation in the colors, but it still ended up having a very cohesive feel, I think. So I think that worked out alright. I actually had an easier time with the hands than I usually do. For some reason, drawing 4 fingers or 3 fingers and a thumb is easier than figuring out how to place 5 fingers. So that was nice. There was a purpley pink, very dark, what are they called? Little pats? I don't know, the little squares of watercolors when they're dried that looked kind of right, and when I just wet that and it didn't mix any other colors with it, it came out almost exactly like the color that Mando used. So that was cool for her little crop top there. Oh, I decided to keep the little cup of coffee or whatever the cup is of with her, because I thought it was kind of cool that usually when I'm having a nice recline and relaxing, I tend to have a drink with me. So I thought that worked out. Oh, and I let her hair down because I didn't think it'd be very comfortable for her to be leaning back there with her hair all in a bun. So I had her hair down. I think that's the only thing I changed, just the pose and having her hair down. The whole draw this in your style challenge thing I really like, because I draw a huge amount of inspiration from other artists, and they just give me ideas to do paintings I never would have otherwise. Like I said, the idea of a space mermaid I think was rattling around in my head a little bit, but I hadn't at all considered painting one. So I'm glad that I tried this out, because I actually ended up really enjoying this piece. I'm really glad that the pose worked out to where it really feels, when you're looking at her, you can kind of feel the relaxation. So I really am glad that I tried that out. And I also really enjoyed doing a space scene for the first time. One thing that I struggled with was doing the stars, because I've been trying to find a paint pen that will go over really nice and opaque over dark watercolors. I had one before the fire and it worked really well on, like, what was that, my Valentine's painting, the Red Queen, but it really was not working on this piece at all. I don't know, maybe because the background is darker than on the Red Queen, but it just was not showing up at all. I ended up going back to just white acrylics, which is a bother because it's a lot easier to control a pen than a paintbrush. And so at first I was going very slowly and carefully and making very circular little dots that looked like stars, but by the time I got to the big part of the sky above her, I was so sick of being that careful, so I just went dot 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 dot, and they were a little splotchy and they looked a little bit less like stars, whereas if I'd had a pen I could have just gone dot 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 and it would have made stars in the right shape without as much effort as with a paintbrush. So now, since I finished this painting, I've just been to Hobby Lobby today and picked out more different types of white paint pens, as well as some gel pens, because other people seem to use them and they work really well. I tried them before and they didn't work out, so I gave up on them, but I'm gonna try them again, just in case. So I will be letting you know in the future which white pens I have found that actually work really well over dark watercolors, so you can use that if you have a similar problem. And I also decided that in the original, the mermaid's tail and her fingernails and her antennae, her ears, and the little symbol on her head were all glowing a little bit, so I decided to also, along with making them blue, I also put some little highlights of white on there to make them a little shiny. So yeah, I think that's all the details I added. So this is my piece. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you then in the next video. Oh, and Mando's challenge video will be linked in the description, as well as the video where you can watch her make her original piece, because that was really awesome. Bye!